Privacy. It's important to us. Matter of fact, it's important enough that the founders created a bill about it. It's the Fourth Amendment to our national Constitution, and it reads as follows. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The background for this amendment finds precedence in three well-known cases in the 18th century. Two of these cases were English and involved pamphleteers who, in their criticism of the government, were put under arrest with all of their books and papers seized in the process. The cases, Wilkes v. Wood in 1763 and Entick v. Carrington in 1765, were both incidents in which the warrants issued neither named the persons suspected or the places to be searched. Both defendants sued the seizing agents for trespass and won their cases. Closer to home for our Constitution's framers was the third case, James Otis's defense of colonial smugglers whose goods had been seized through the use of writs of assistance. In the years in which England struggled for more economic control of her colonies, a rise in colonial smuggling was a very real and troubling consequence of that control. In an effort to enforce taxes and to cut down on the smuggling, Parliament allowed British agents of the Crown to use writs of assistance, which were basically blank search warrants that allowed them to enter any home, business, or area to search for any smuggled goods under pretense, even if there was no particular suspicion of goods where they searched. With free rein, British officials abused their freedom, and homes were ransacked and goods taken on a pretense of smuggling when there was actually no basis for such intrusion. Writs of assistance became a legal means of tyrannizing the population and asserting British authority. Otis stated in his famous Against Writs of Assistance of January 1761, quote, "Now one of the most essential branches of English liberty is the freedom of one's house. A man's house is his castle. And whilst he is quiet, he is as well guarded as a prince in his castle. This writ, if it should be declared legal, would totally annihilate this privilege. Custom house officers may enter our house when they please. We are commanded to permit their entry. Their menial servants may enter, may break locks, bars, and everything in their way. And whether they break through malice or revenge, no man, no court can inquire. Bare suspicion without oath is sufficient." End quote. While James Otis was unsuccessful in his defense of the smugglers, the case brought the subject to the forefront of the colonial mind. Otis biographer William Tudor stated, quote, "The animated arguments of Otis awakened at the same moment a close and attentive watchfulness in America of every movement of government." End quote. He also noted John Adams' support of and admiration for James Otis when he quoted him as saying, and this is John Adams saying, "I do say, in the most solemn manner, that Mr. Otis's oration against the writs of assistance breathed into this nation the breath of life." Along with Otis's breath of life, the Virginia Constitution, written in 1776, included in its 10th section a provision that makes the use of general warrants illegal, and the Massachusetts Constitution, in Article 14, affirms that every subject has a right to be secure from all unreasonable searches and seizures of his person, his houses, his papers, and all his possessions. So when Patrick Henry voiced opposition to the ratification of the federal Constitution, his concern, always for liberty, was that there was no Bill of Rights. His assertion that, quote, "excisemen may come in multitudes, go into your cellars and rooms, and search and ransack and measure everything you eat, drink, and wear," unquote. It was not without a solid foundation that he made his protest. The Fourth Amendment is as relevant today as it was in the days of our founders, but faces new issues and new interpretations, especially regarding government surveillance and our response as Christians towards this invasiveness. In an article, "Should Christians Resist Greater Government Surveillance?" 3 different responses were given. The first was no, but we need to firmly demand proper oversight, citing the fight against terrorism and the fact that information is not merely helpful but necessary in this endeavor is important. Asserting that democracy is threatened by the chilling effects of surveillance, another answer was yes, it may be necessary. However, this answer is offered with a caveat that Christians need to be informed participants in society, seeking social justice and human dignity, and opposing surveillance when it is uncaring or makes certain groups and individuals more vulnerable. The last perspective, no, it's the wrong fight, questions whether safety should be such a great concern in light of Jesus' statement that, since they persecuted me, naturally they will persecute you. And this person proposes praying for our leaders, paying our taxes, and educating ourselves to vote wisely. While the Fourth Amendment is still as necessary and relevant as the day it was adopted, there will most likely always be differences in its interpretation and application. As the Supreme Court ruled in Smith v. Maryland in 1979, while the guarantees of the Fourth Amendment are broad, they are not boundless.